This week, lawmakers from all over the state came to Pierre for a special session to decide whether to build a new men's prison in Sioux Falls.
However, if things had went a little differently over 120 years ago, there's a good chance that special session would have happened in Mitchell. In tonight's Eye on KELOLAND, Jordan DeSmit tells us about how Mitchell almost became South Dakota's state capital.
In the heart of Mitchell, you'll come across the Carnegie Resource Center. Built in 1903, one of its current purposes is to preserve Mitchell's history. You can find things like framed artwork and this ceiling mural by Oscar Howe, or tools that once belonged to A.J. Kings, the man who played a hand in constructing multiple prominent buildings in Mitchell.
We have what we think is a pretty nice collection of things.
Mitchell's story starts as settlers tried establishing a town called Firesteel in the 1870s. However, the railroad had other plans for them.
They told Firesteel, you can't have a city here, we won't put the railroad here. So the city said, okay, we'll move.
That move brought them to present-day Mitchell, which had its first post office by 1879. A little more than a decade later, the Corn Palace started taking shape.
First Corn Palace was built in 1892 to attract settlers to this area, because what they really wanted to do was show off what you can grow in this area.
But what some people may not know is that around this time period there was another important piece of history happening: Mitchell's fight to be South Dakota's state capital.
It is really about money. It's about commerce. It's about people getting to your area and settling in your town.
Mitchell was one of 7 South Dakota towns to put their hat in the ring around the time South Dakota earned statehood, ultimately losing to Pierre. But Mitchell did not give in. It would have another chance in 1904.
Almost every legislative session would have somebody try to get a measure put on the ballot to change the capital of South Dakota to someplace else. And some of those, most of those did not pass. However, there was one that did pass, and then they had to have a committee to pick out which city was going to be really competing. And it turned out to be Mitchell.
The campaign to have Mitchell be the capital of South Dakota took over the town, with some people even going as far as to put their support on umbrellas like this one.
Many, many pamphlets. And the newspapers themselves, the railroad actually would put "Vote for Mitchell" on the side in big letters all the way down the train, you know, that we are a wonderful place to be, that sort of thing.
The campaign wasn't always pretty.
So Mitchell had a newspaper called the Mitchell Capital. Of course, Pierre also has a newspaper, and a lot of these little towns around had newspapers. And so they would pick a side, and then, you know, the other side was all evil and your side was all good.
And to the dismay of Mitchell residents, voters picked Pierre once again.
I think what really swung the vote was there weren't enough smaller towns around us that actually backed Mitchell. And almost all of West River went for Pierre.
Despite the loss, Mitchell has become a hotbed for tourists thanks to the Corn Palace. But Mitchell's capital fight will continue to stay alive at the Carnegie Resource Center.
If you don't know where you came from, it's kind of hard to figure out if you're making the right choices as you move forward.
With Eye on KELOLAND, I'm Jordan DeSmit.
If you would like to visit the Carnegie Resource Center, it is open Monday through Saturday from 1 to 5 p.m.